this drawing. This is the 2D constraints exercise that you would have downloaded. Okay. So 2D constraints allows us to create parametric drawings by applying geometric and dimensional constraints. So we're going to be adding a bit more intelligence to our drawings. Parametric constraints are used to maintain relationships and control dimensions of 2D geometry. And we have geometrical and dimensional. So geometrical constraints control the relationships between entities, while dimensional constraints control the dimensions of an entity, meaning, for example, like length, angle, radius, diameter, and so on. So we have here this exercise file that you also have on your end. On your training module, you would have on the left side a start of the exercise image, which is this image itself. And on the right to that, you will have a completed exercise image. So that's the goal for this exercise, to be able to get to that completed exercise image. So let's start. So we'll be applying some geometric constraints for now, and you can find that here in the parametric tab of BricsCAD. So let's go to parametric tab, and you will have here 2D geometric constraints on the leftmost side. We have a few here that we'll be using today. So the first one will be coincident constraint. But before this, please make sure that you have your endpoint entity snap on. So that can be found here on the bottom right side. eSnap, you can right click there and just make sure this is turned on and active. Okay. So let's create a coincident constraint. So yes, does anyone have a question? Okay, I'll just move on. So by using the coincident constraint, let us select the first point that we have. So let's just start to select an entity. Here, I want to make sure that this endpoint is always attached to this arc endpoint. So that's why I'm going to be selecting these two. And we can keep on doing that for the other lines and arcs that we have. So we have a few of these to make. So you can just also use your space button to make sure that you can quickly recall the same command. So we have this and this. So that's fairly easy. You just need to make sure that you have connected all the points that you wish to be connected together and always be connected with each other. So you would see that these would be appearing, these symbols, meaning these are the constraints that you have been adding to each of the entities. You would see that when you hover on one, the entities that are involved are also highlighted for you. So let's move on and go with parallel constraint. So we want to make sure that these two lines, this line and this line, will always be parallel with each other, as well as these two. Okay, so that's for parallel lines. And then we want to make sure that this circle is of a certain distance and fits well with this arc, as well as on the other side. So let's use the concentric constraint here. So let's select the arc and the circle. So you see that these have been added, concentric constraint, as well on the other side. So we have something like this. So once you have that, we can move on to the tangent constraint. So this tangent constraint would be to make sure that this line and this arc are always having that connection with each other. So let's first select this arc and this line, and then on the other side as well. And the same goes for this right side. So you have something like this. So you were seeing that it just keeps on adding the constraints record that you have for all these entities. So now let's move on and have a fixed constraint here. So this is the lock icon here on the 2D geometry constraints side of your ribbon. So using this, let's snap to the bottom left angle of our drawing. So it's in here, and you see there's a lock button there. So now I want to make sure that if you remember, our goal is to have that finished completed exercise image. So that has a vertical and horizontal orientation. So I want to make sure that I have these two lines always in vertical. So I just select this one. This is the two vertical lines here. And we select the leftmost line here. And that makes that vertical. And on this end, for the right part of this entity, we use the horizontal, which is here just beside that vertical, and click the bottommost line. So now we have the L shape for this set of entities. All right, so once you have that, we want to make sure that we use the equal constraints to make sure that certain elements are always equal with each other. So let's use that. And let's select this arc and this arc. So we want to make sure that they're always equal. And let's also do that for the two circles, this and this. So you see that they're changing as we move along when we are applying the constraints. So we'll now apply some dimensional constraints to control the dimensions of the bracket. The dimensional constraints can be found here. These are the set of dimensional constraints just beside your geometric constraints on your ribbon. So let's use linear constraint. So you have a drop down here, but for now let's use linear. And then we choose entity. Yes, correct. And let's choose the entity, the bottom line. Which is this. Okay, so we see that there is a dimension that appears. And we are now prompted to specify a dimension location. So let's just there, but now we can type in the dimension text as well. So my desired length for now would be 170. So I'll just type that in, click enter, and the whole entity complete with the other entities that are connected with this line that I selected are also changed because of the constraints that we have added earlier. So let's repeat this step. Again, a linear shape to this leftmost line. And this time, let's put it as 120 and enter. So that will change for us also. So now we want to focus on the diameter. So let us go here, diameter constraint. It's under radius. Just go to the drop down and you'll find diameter. So we now are being asked to select an arc, a circle, or curved polyline segment. So what we're going to do is just select the rightmost arc, which is this one. So it's going to have that diameter information appearing. So let's just click to place a dimension line. We are now prompted with a dimension text. So we just want a 40 for this one and enter. So while we are doing all these constraints and adding dimensional constraints, everything is also connected with each other, so they're also changing together. So now we can also add another diameter constraint. This time would be for the circle instead of just the arc. So we have this circle and we can click here. This time I want to put in diameter which is equal to diameter 1 that we have created earlier, and then which is 40 currently, and then multiply that by 0.5. So enter, and that will create this relationship with the other elements that we have here. Okay, so I think until this point would be fairly easy to add all these constraints. Just follow the specific constraints that we were talking about. It's all in the exercises. And after that, just add in the dimensional constraints. So we can change the dimensions of the bracket by the following variables. So D1 would maybe be the horizontal length, which is here. D2 would be the vertical length. And diameter 1 would be the width of the legs. So now how do we edit parameters? Let's right click on the ribbon, go to our panels, and make sure that we have our mechanical browser active. So you can just right click. Again, let me show that it's in the panels, and just find mechanical browser. And it should appear on the left side of your screen or wherever in your screen. Okay, so you would have something like this. You have parameters that are indicated here, D1, D2, diameter 1, diameter 2. So you would notice that diameter 2 is locked here because it depends on diameter 1. So if, let's say, you insert this parametric block in another drawing, this parameter cannot be modified. Okay. So if you want to change the expression of each of these parameters, then you can also do that with the mechanical browser. So let us try this out, D1, and we see here, D1, there's an expression. So it can be 200 if we change that. So you would see that D1 has been changed to 200. Okay, and yeah, so you can play around with the expressions and the values of all these entities that you already